Hello, I am reporting from Elizabethton, Tennessee, where I stayed last night after touring parts of Western North Carolina that were most impacted. Um, Started at Old Fort, which is basically, I mean, there's no commas. There's railroad track collapsed. Downtown is covered in debris. Um, I saw some business owners, cleaning up, but it's like the storm happened yesterday. Um, then I hit Lake James. Lake James is one of the closest lakes to Asheville, and one of my friends has a boat, and that's kind of one of our spots that we would go from Asheville. Um, the boat ramps are piled with debris. There's trash in the parking lots. Um, it's There was one boat that was on the water. I'm assuming it was a resident, and um, it doesn't seem like the boat ramp is usable. Um, Seems that it would be pretty dangerous to even try to be on the lake. It was super, super muddy, debris everywhere, just looked thick. So who knows, will it be functional by next summer? I guess it could be. But you got to worry about toxicity. You got to worry about the aftermath and ramifications of Hurricane Helene. Then I went to the path 221 to North Cove, which is one of my favorite places to disc golf and one of the best, arguably in the world. The roads completely collapsed. Locals are crossing the, I guess, creek there that turned into a river. I'm not sure what waterway that is, but that's the only way and there was a Jeep and there was a truck that struggled. So there was no way I was going to try with my Toyota RAV4. I was like, no, thank you. So that was pretty shocking and devastating. Um, when will that be fixed? When will is North Cove open? I'm not sure. But I know they just took out a big loan last year to keep making improvements, to add some tiny or some glamping options. Um, you know, they've got their new restaurant. So just thinking about the implications for them. And then went to Spruce Pine, spent more than an hour there talking with Lori Schaefer of the Mitchell News Journal. And she was kind enough to kind of just talk through everything. This is the newspaper that she gave me from October 2nd. And I was standing right there. So that water would have been over my head. And it's just this adorable mountain town, that's supposed to have shoppers and leaf peepers and diners and drinkers. And instead, all the buildings are flooded. Some are boarded up. Some are just open. And seeing how far was away and how much it rose to get over the railroad tracks and then to get over this ridge to even reach the lower Spruce Pine strip. I read a report that says 25 feet. I mean, standing there, it seems like way higher that it had to rise to reach the bottom of that train station. So standing there, being there, really just, for lack of a better word, washes over you, thinking about the walls of water and any human that was caught up in that without being prepared. I mean, there's no way to survive. There's no way to swim your way out of it. I mean, the debris, the mud, the thickness. Um, they had a beautiful park there at Spruce Pine, playground, park, amphitheater, all kinds of stuff, and that's all washed. It's all mud. So this lively, lovely little mountain town, I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's gone. A couple places had reopened on the upper level, a Mexican restaurant and a hat shop, but you just it's hard to fathom. Then went to Linville, and it's everywhere you go. There's trees down, there's guardrails banged up, there's fencing down, there's bridges washed. Even if the bridge is there, it's washed away on the sides. Then it kind of worked my way through Roan Mountain. It was starting to get dark, so I could not see as much. So I'm backtracking a little bit and going to retrace some steps. I was told by the Appalachian Station at 19E, which is this adorable tavern that, you know, I got to talk to the owner for a while, and they were, just like a lot of us, no cell service, no communication. And so as they tried to open back up right away, they were pretty much okay, besides their parking lot is destroyed. But they, would see locals and see regulars stop by. Oh, you're okay, great. It really became an information hub. It's right on the border, kind of Tennessee and North Carolina. So, we talked about it's hard to trust any news. It's hard to know what to trust. It's hard to know what sources. So we try to rely on firsthand accounts. We try to rely on stories from other Western North Carolinians and Eastern Tennessee folks. That's who we trust. There's so many conspiracy theories. There's so many different stories. We have none of us have a clue what the actual death toll is. Um, Stories of bodies in trees, bodies pressed up against fencing. Um, and those were in the first few days before we had any communication. So we're just all piece by piece, story by story, town by town, trying to really understand the immediate impact. But we're 5 weeks in, and some of these places look like the storm happened yesterday. So, yes, long road to recovery. Yes, progress has been made, of course. Mitchell News Journal is right there in the lower level, and they somehow are high enough to not get completely muddy flooded. They were clear flooded, which is a term I hadn't really heard yet. And it just means that they got hit by rainwater from second story window breaking, and then the building flooded, up to down instead of down to up. And that is an important distinction for, businesses and homes and such for this rebuild, because it's a lot different to have clear rainwater flooding or your pipes bursting, which happened, of course, in this storm, versus the rising, muddy, disgusting, horrible, so much trash, so much debris, water that rose up from rivers and creeks that are now rivers, and rivers that are carved differently. This has been deemed a geological event where rivers are different, towns are different, landscapes are different. And Western North Carolina is very connected. Yesterday, the Explore Asheville president, Vic Isley, shared at 1 Million Cups. Asheville is kind of like the heartbeat of Western North Carolina, but all the arteries, all the veins, all these little mountain towns are like the lifeblood, really. People do day trips. There's a lot of amazing little mountain towns, within an hour of Asheville. I've had an Airbnb for 10 years, and it's very common for people to take an hour, hour and a half, 2-hour road trip from Asheville, go experience another city, another area, go on a hike, whatever, and then come back. It's very common. So it really is the whole region impacted. So I am going to continue my journey. I'm in the northern part of Western North Carolina now, right over the border of Tennessee, and then work my way back down. I'm going to hit Green Mountain and Poplar first, and then Burnsville, Marshall, and Hot Springs. And it's kind of apropos to finish in Hot Springs today. And of course, I follow the roads, and if there's a road closed, I typically try to go as far as I can and really see, why is it closed? What's going on? Is there a bridge out? Is there whatever out? So just having a loose route, but also being open to exploring if seems like something needs exploring. So all in all, this is day 2. So I'll cover more than 500 miles, which is there's 2 loops. I'm doing the northern loop, finishing the northern loop today. And then Friday and Saturday, I'll kind of do the southern loop. Instead of doing one big circle, I wanted to hit some of the towns inside of the circle. So just trying to document, just trying to understand where some of these places are, what the recovery is looking like, what people need, and just trying to make a little sense out of everything and really understand the swath of Western North Carolina impacted. So I will continue on. I will post Instagram and Facebook updates. I do not have the capability to go live on YouTube yet with my phone. I got to build up followers, so I'll try to do another YouTube update this evening. But I'll leave you with a few notes. The sense of commerce being halted or stopped is jarring. Knowing that this is, kind of end of fall, leaf peeping season, usually people cruising on our windy mountain roads, and instead it's semis, it's huge trucks, it's, service folks, like electricity and utility folks. And, the drives are not pleasant. The drives are not these little day trip getaways. You got big semis coming down these mountains that, probably used to be a once a week delivery, maybe, instead of just daily constant giant trucks and work trucks and all that. And the smell is, smells like toxicity. It smells like death. It smells, especially when the mud is still thick in places. And, people talk about the potential of wildfires, apparently, because there's so much dirt and dust everywhere. And there's a lot of gasoline from propane tanks and tankers. And there's just fuel. There's a lot of fuel. So, there's that fear of people need to really contain their fires and burn piles and campfires and everything. So that's terrifying. But then when the dirt and gets wet, it releases that awful, disgusting smell. Not everywhere, but there's like a hint. And we have no real sense of the death toll. Anybody I talk to, nobody feels like we have a real sense. And they say it takes years because you have to find the missing body. I know they were at the tavern I went to last night. They were talking about a woman that they're searching for that like 30 miles away. So that kind of, feeling somewhat like we're in the dark, feeling like we don't know what's all true and what's truly happening. And, are places that are being rebuilt better, smarter, differently? Or are we just going to just try to hurry up and make it like it was versus make it maybe how it needs to be or should be, and really think about the future? And people want to say, oh, this is a once in a lifetime or 1,000-year flood or the worst natural disaster in history. And maybe all that's true, but it doesn't mean it can't happen again. It doesn't mean that any of us know when it could happen again. It doesn't mean that we should just build back fast. We got to build back smart. And, driving around, even if you put it in Google Maps or Waze or wherever, you sometimes still don't know what roads are going to be open, what's going to be closed, how you can get somewhere. Sometimes you just go and you explore it for yourself. And are you going to cross that river because there's a bridge down? Most likely not, unless you live there. And something else I thought was really important from the Explore Asheville talk at 1 Million Cups yesterday, Vic said we have to continue to tell all the stories. We have to continue to help the rest of the world understand how catastrophic this particular storm was compared to any storm of any other name. Her words. She also mentioned what I've heard many times, 9/11 meets Katrina. And that's not the first time I've heard that. That's not the first time I've heard that description. Ex-military volunteers have said the same thing. So we're dealing with a war zone and natural disaster aftermath. That's what, there's bewilderment, there's confusion, there's despair, there's pain. And I know as humans, we want to talk about human resiliency and, mountain folk, right? Like getting their own chainsaws out and doing their own cleanup and saving their neighbors and all this grit. And that's wonderful. We're as strong as these mountains. I'm adopted. I'm been here 10 years, but I truly feel like this is my first home in a lot of ways. And it's okay to also talk about all the pain, all the hard, all the ugly, all the bad. Not to be negative, not to dwell in it, but because we need help. We need state dollars, federal dollars, international support, celebrity support. We need more Concert for the Carolinas. We need more nonprofits and fundraisers. We need more everything. We need it. Vic said it's a 5-year road to recovery. And as much as we might want it to be 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, that's the realist timeline I've heard from someone. And this is the president of Explore Asheville, which of course their focus is getting tourism back up and running because it's a huge, huge, huge part of our economy. But even that is problematic. We have to be able to attract other industry, other economic drivers and levers. You know, I lived in Savannah, Georgia for 10 years, and you better believe there was movies being filmed there all the time. All the time. And I don't think we see that as much as we should in our region. That's just one element. We are very artsy, we're very creative, but the full scope of being a TV and movie hub, being a place not just for the sweeping mountain views, but truly people creating and making documentaries and films and TV shows and all of that. Technology, manufacturing, so many things. I mean, you look at Swannanoa, which was hit harder and just as hard as, let's say Spruce Pine that I was at yesterday. What are the opportunities with all this basically flat, washed away land, and what types of industries do we need to attract? How do we diversify so we're not so reliant on tourism? And, just one fall without that tourism dollars. I mean, there's businesses that, make almost no money over the winter. Tourism really dies down hard in the winter here. And I know firsthand as a Airbnb host how empty December, January, and February really can be because we're a very outdoor focused area. So if people can't go on their hikes and their rafting and all that, tourism screeches to a halt. The fact that we, potentially might lose up to 60% of our service industry workers that go to, greener pastures to go make money over the winter at ski resorts or other, towns that don't have such a slowdown in the winter. Our artists, I was at the River Arts District days later helping a friend move out of their studio, and 60% of artists might not come back. They might start over somewhere else. So there's just every aspect of American life and all the flaws in every system are being showcased from the aftermath of this storm. So I'm going to get back on the road and I'm going to go talk to some more folks. A big shout out to Lori Schaefer with the Mitchell News Journal for taking time with me. And shout out to the Appalachian Station for being, a haven in the storm, so to speak. And, it's okay to talk about the pain and the heartbreak and the devastation and the catastrophic and the apocalyptic feel and all of these hard truths and hard negatives. I want to be positive and uplifting just like the next person, but right now it's important to really talk about the reality and what we're facing. And, we love to say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And mountain folk are tough and all of this, but it's too much. It's too much to just individuals pulling themselves out of this. It's too much when, you know, third and fourth quarter revenues depend so heavily on the fall tourism. It's too much to just expect that people have savings accounts or um, like could ever in any way be prepared for this. It's too much for business owners that have made $0 since the storm. And many of those, you know, turning into supply hubs, helping their neighbors, helping um, fellow small business owners. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And my heart goes out to everyone that's trying to navigate this. There's not some manual that they give you that says, here's how you recover after a natural disaster. Um, every day you doubt what you're doing. Every day you doubt, especially small business and entrepreneurs, like that makes up a huge portion of our economy here in Western North Carolina. You're just, what do you do? How do you make money? How do you pivot? How do you add income streams? How do you truly survive? And the stat I'll leave you with is after a natural disaster, they say 40% of businesses never reopen. And I fear that stat will be higher for Helene because we're talking businesses washed away, gone. We're talking about the swath, the 500 kind of square mile ecosystem that highly depends on each other, highly depends on Asheville, highly depends on so much. Um, it's so interconnected. It's so interconnected here. And I don't want to see that stat 40%. I don't want to see that stat. So onwards. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon, Mad Geniuses.